Welcome back to our podcast where the stories behind the screen are told with all the respect and nostalgia they deserve. In 1978, the film Superman was released and created a global phenomenon, making millions believe a man could fly, with its story of a superpowered being from another planet becoming Earth's greatest hero. The work was not only a massive commercial success, but also became an unforgettable part of an entire generation's memory, shaping the superhero film genre to this day. But behind these classic characters were actors with their own unique destinies. Nearly half a century has passed, and time has etched different marks on their lives. Some continued to shine brightly, some chose a quieter path, and some had to end their journeys in tragedy. Let's look back at the tumultuous journey of the cast who gave Superman its soul. Christopher Reeve as Superman and Clark Kent. In Superman, the character of Clark Kent or Superman is the heart and soul of the film. With his tall stature, righteous face, and hopeful blue eyes, Christopher Reeve left an indelible impression. His performance at the time, at the age of 26, brilliantly portrayed the contrast between a clumsy, endearing Clark Kent and an imposing, invincible Superman. He didn't just play a superhero, he was Superman in the eyes of the world. After the resounding success of Superman, Christopher Reeve became a global star overnight. Born on September 25, 1952, the talented Juilliard graduate faced a great challenge, escaping the shadow of the Man of Steel. He strived to diversify his roles, participating in romantic films like Somewhere in Time and Broadway plays to prove his true acting talent. He was also a skilled pilot, having twice flown solo across the Atlantic. His life seemed complete. Alongside his wife, Dana Morosini, in a love that many admired. He was not just a star, but also an active social activist fighting for environmental and human rights issues. But behind that brilliant halo, few could have imagined that fate would deal him the cruelest blow of his life. On May 27, 1995, during an equestrian competition, a horrific accident occurred. The fall from his horse broke two of his cervical vertebrae, and overnight, the hero of a generation was paralyzed from the neck down, completely dependent on a ventilator. Yet in the darkest adversity, another hero emerged. Reeve turned his personal tragedy into a mission. He and his wife founded the Christopher Dana Reeve Foundation, raising hundreds of... What is most profound is the strange connection that fate seemed to weave into his life. In the film, Superman is a symbol of extraordinary physical strength. In real life, Christopher Reeve became a symbol of a different kind of strength, one that comes from will, courage, and a love for life in the face of physical helplessness. The Man of Steel on screen gave way to a real-life hero, one who proved that courage isn't about being able to fly, but about never giving up hope. However, that determined journey had to come to an abrupt end. On October 10, 2004, Christopher Reeve passed away at the age of 52 from heart failure, a complication of his long-term paralysis. His passing left a huge void. The legacy he left behind is not just the immortal role of Superman, but an inspiring life story of a man who taught the world to redefine what a hero is. Margot Kidder as Lois Lane. In Superman, the character Lois Lane is a sharp, courageous, and charming reporter for the Daily Planet. With her bright eyes and distinctive husky voice, Margot Kidder breathed life into the character, making Lois not just Superman's love interest, but a strong, independent woman. Her performance at the time, at the age of 30, brilliantly showcased intelligence and humor, creating an unforgettable chemistry with Christopher Reeve. After the film's success, Margot Kidder continued her career with many diverse roles. But her life was a relentless battle with the ghosts in her soul. Born on October 17, 1948 in Canada, she came to Hollywood with a free and rebellious spirit, but the stage lights could not hide the darkness within. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a disease that plunged her into a vortex of intense manic and depressive episodes. In 1996, the world was shocked when Kidder was found in a state of panic, her hair hacked off, hiding in the bushes of a stranger's backyard after being missing for days. It was the most public and painful moment of her struggle. However, instead of collapsing, she faced it bravely. She became a powerful activist for mental health, using her own story to dismantle stigmas and help others in similar situations. She was also an outspoken political activist protesting wars and supporting environmental causes. What is most profound is the contrast between her role and her life. In the film, Lois Lane is a woman always in control of the situation, always seeking the truth. In real life, Margot Kidder was a person struggling to control her own mind, and the greatest truth she sought was peace of soul. The strong character on screen was a stark contrast to the fragile and vulnerable artist in real life. However, that brave and stormy journey had to come to an end. On May 13, 2018, Margot Kidder passed away at the age of 69. The cause was later confirmed to be suicide by a drug and alcohol overdose. Her passing left a deep sadness. Her legacy is not just the image of a classic Lois Lane, but the story of a rebellious soul who fought to the end and dared to speak up for those without a voice. Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. In Superman, the character Lex Luthor is the memorable villain, a criminal mastermind who constantly challenges Superman with his bald head and arrogant demeanor. Gene Hackman brought a Lex Luthor who was both frightening and somewhat humorous. His performance at the time, at the age of 48, and already an Oscar-winning actor, brilliantly showcased the character's intelligence, cunning, and cruelty. After Superman, Gene Hackman continued to solidify his status as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Born on January 30th, 1930, he had an illustrious career with diverse roles in classic films such as The French Connection, Unforgiven, which earned him his second Oscar, and The Royal Tenenbaums. He was known for his ability to embody complex, gritty characters and always brought an astonishing authenticity to every role. However, unlike many of his peers, Hackman was never truly comfortable with fame. He was an extremely private person, rarely gave interviews, and always tried to keep his personal life out of the spotlight. In 2004, after the film Welcome to Mooseport, he abruptly announced his retirement at the height of his career, citing concerns about his heart health and the stress of the film industry. Since then, he has found a new passion, writing novels. With his partner, classical pianist Betsy Arakawa, he lives a quiet life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. What is most profound is the complete contrast between his role and his life. In the film, Lex Luthor is a man obsessed with power, fame, and public attention. In real life, Gene Hackman was a man who willingly gave up all those things. He chose the quiet of writing and a reclusive life over the adulation of Hollywood. Superman's nemesis craved for the world to know his name, while the actor who played him only wished to be forgotten. Today, at the age of 95, Gene Hackman is still living a peaceful life with his family. His journey is proof that a great artist does not need to live in the limelight to affirm his worth, and that peace is sometimes the greatest achievement of all. Marlon Brando as Jor-El. In Superman, the character Jor-El, Superman's biological father, is a small but iconic role, with his majestic presence and deep, resonant voice. Marlon Brando delivered a Jor-El full of wisdom and love. His performance at the time, at the age of 54, and already a living legend, brought a special weight to the opening minutes of the film, even though he only appeared in a few scenes. Marlon Brando's real life was a chaotic symphony of genius and tragedy. Born on April 3, 1924, he forever changed the art of acting with his method acting, creating unforgettable performances in A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront. But in real life, he was a rebellious soul, Hollywood's original bad boy. His life was filled with complex love affairs, broken marriages, and shocking behavior. However, his greatest tragedy came from his own family. In 1990, his son Christian shot and killed the boyfriend of his half-sister Cheyenne. The case destroyed his family. A few years later, Cheyenne, after years of struggling with mental illness, committed suicide. These successive tragedies, along with costly divorces, left Brando in financial difficulty and seclusion in his final years. What is most profound is the tragic contrast between his role and his life. In the film, Jor-El is a great father, a visionary scientist who sacrificed everything to save his son and bring hope to a new world. In real life, Marlon Brando was a failed father, a man whose actions and lifestyle indirectly contributed to the downfall of his own children. The image of the ideal father on screen is a painful contrast to his tragic reality. However, that journey, full of glory and also much suffering, had to come to an end. On July 1st, 2004, Marlon Brando passed away at the age of 80 from respiratory failure. His passing closed the life of one of the most influential actors of all time. The legacy he left behind are classic roles in a complex life story, a reminder that genius and tragedy often go hand in hand. Terence Stamp as General Zod. In Superman, the character General Zod is a fearsome villain, a military dictator from the planet Krypton with an absolute desire to rule, with his cold, blue eyes and commanding voice. Terence Stamp created one of the most memorable villains in cinema history. His performance at the time, at the age of 40, hauntingly portrayed Zod's cruelty and hatred. Before becoming Zod, Terence Stamp was one of the icons of 1960s, London, born on July 22, 1938. With his handsome looks and talent, he quickly became a star. But a breakup with supermodel Jean Shrimpton left him devastated. Feeling empty and lost, he did something few stars would dare to do. He disappeared from Hollywood. He gave up fame, traveled to India, and lived in ashrams, immersing himself in meditation and seeking spiritual enlightenment. Those years of seclusion transformed him from a sex symbol into a philosophical hermit. When he returned to cinema, he brought with him a different depth and calmness, continuing his career with diverse and highly acclaimed roles. What is most profound is the complete contrast between his role and his life. In the film, General Zod is a man consumed by hatred, arrogance, and a lust for power. In real life, Terence Stamp was a man who took the opposite path. He renounced the ego and worldly desires to find inner peace. The conqueror on screen is the complete opposite of the seeker of enlightenment in real life. Today, at the age of 87, Terence Stamp is still continuing his acting career and pursuing a peaceful lifestyle. His journey is a testament to the ability to overcome adversity and the transformation of the soul. An inspiring story of finding oneself after having it all. Valerie Perrine as Eve Teschmacher. In Superman, the character Eve Teschmacher is the charming and somewhat naive mistress of Lex Luthor. With her mischievous smile and comedic flair, Valerie Perrine breathed life into the role, making Eve not just a beautiful sidekick, but a character with a conscience. Her performance at the time, at the age of 35, brought grace and depth to a supporting role. Before Superman, Valerie Perrine was a phenomenon of the 1970s. Born on September 3, 1943, she made a leap from being a Las Vegas showgirl to an Oscar-nominated actress for her role in the film, Lenny. But behind that glamour was a career that began to derail, and a life ravaged by illness. The 1980s, her roles became smaller. In 2015, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a condition that has gradually taken away her control over her body. The former beauty icon now struggles with the most basic activities. However, she has maintained her optimistic spirit and unique charm. What is most profound is the connection between her role and her life. In the film, Eve Teschmacher is a character who shines with an outward appearance but hides an inner fragility. In real life, Valerie Perrine, a star who once shone brightly, now faces the fragility of her own body. But just as Eve showed compassion at the last minute, Valerie has also shown incredible mental strength in the face of adversity. Today, at the age of 82, Valerie Perrine is still bravely fighting her illness. Her journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and continues to inspire those facing similar challenges. Ned Beatty as Otis. In Superman, the character Otis is the clumsy, greedy, and humorous right-hand man of Lex Luthor. Ned Beatty turned Otis into one of the most beloved supporting characters in the film. His performance at the time, at the age of 41, brought laughter and balance to Lex Luthor's dark schemes. Ned Beatty, born on July 6, 1937, was one of Hollywood's most reliable character actors. He didn't have the looks of a movie star, but he had the talent to appear in over 160 films and leave his mark on classics like Deliverance and Network, which earned him an Oscar nomination. He was never bitter about not getting leading roles. He found joy and satisfaction in being a professional actor, giving his all to every part, big or small. He lived a life without scandals, without major tragedies, simply dedicating himself to his art. What is most profound is the similarity between his role and his life. In the film, Otis is a supporting character, one who could never be the center of attention. In real life, Ned Beatty also built an illustrious career as a character actor. He proved that you don't have to be the lead to be an indispensable part of a story, and that greatness sometimes lies in humility. However, that quiet and dedicated journey had to come to an end. On June 13, 2021, Ned Beatty passed away at the age of 83. His passing closed the life of a true artist. The legacy he left behind is an immense body of work, and a reminder that an artist's value is not measured by the size of the role, but by the quality of the dedication. Jackie Cooper as Perry White. In Superman, the character Perry White is the hot-tempered but righteous editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. With his catchphrase, "Great Caesar's Ghost," Jackie Cooper delivered a Perry White who was both humorous and respectable. His performance at the time, at the age of 56, proved that a child star from the 1930s could absolutely survive and shine in a changed Hollywood. Few know that behind the role of the tough boss was a life filled with bitterness and extraordinary resilience. Born on September 15, 1922, Jackie Cooper was one of the biggest child stars of all time, nominated for an Academy Award at the age of just 9 for the film Skippy. But his childhood was no fairy tale. He was exploited for his labor and endured emotional abuse. During one film shoot, the director, who was also his uncle, threatened to shoot his dog in front of him just to make him cry authentically. After serving in World War II, his career stalled and he fell into depression, alcoholism. But instead of giving up, he started over, transitioning to directing and becoming a successful studio executive, winning 2 Emmy Awards. What is most profound is the connection between his role and his life. In the film, Perry White is a survivor in the competitive world of journalism. In real life, Jackie Cooper was a true survivor of Hollywood, a man who overcame childhood trauma and the harshness of the industry to rebuild his life and career on his own terms. The character's resilience reflected the actor's own strength. However, that resilient journey had to come to an end. On May 3, 2011, Jackie Cooper passed away at the age of 88. His passing closed an extraordinary life. The legacy he left behind is not just his roles, but an inspiring story of the power of recovery and the human spirit. Glenn Ford as Jonathan Kent. In Superman, the character Jonathan Kent is the kind, adoptive father and moral compass of Clark Kent, with his gentle eyes and simple philosophy of life. Glenn Ford delivered one of the warmest performances of his career. His performance at the time, at the age of 62, left a deep impression, a reminder that even a superhero needs a kind heart to grow. However, behind that ideal father figure was a turbulent personal life. Born on May 1, 1916, Glenn Ford was a major star of Hollywood's golden age, but he was also known for a life filled with scandals. He went through 4 failed marriages and had countless affairs with leading actresses. He also had a strange habit of recording all of his phone conversations, an act that revealed his insecurity and paranoia. His life was a series of conflicts and chaos, a complete contrast to the calmness he portrayed on screen. What is most profound is the astonishing contrast between his role and his life. In the film, he was the model of a devoted father who taught Superman about kindness and humility. In real life, his personal life was a mess of infidelity and instability. The image of the nation's father on screen concealed a man full of flaws in real life. However, that journey full of contradictions had to come to an end. On August 30th, 2006, Glenn Ford passed away at the age of 90. His passing closed the life of a legend. His legacy is an immense body of work and a complex story about the difference between image and reality. A reminder that what we see on screen is not always the truth. Jack O'Halloran as Non. In Superman, the character Non is a giant, mute, and brutal henchman of General Zod, with his towering physique and emotionless gaze. Jack O'Halloran created a character who spread fear without a single line of dialogue. His performance at the time, at the age of 35, brilliantly showcased the character's brute force and cruelty. Few know that behind this unfeeling character is a man with an incredibly complex past, born on April 8, 1943. Before becoming an actor, Jack O'Halloran was a heavyweight boxer. But what is even more remarkable is his background. He is believed to be the illegitimate son of the notorious mafia boss, Albert Anastasia. Growing up in the shadow of the underworld, O'Halloran had to choose his own path. He chose to leave the world of crime to pursue a career in sports and then film. It was a choice that required courage and extraordinary determination. What is most profound is the connection between his role and his life. In the film, Non is a creature who only follows orders, a voiceless machine of destruction. In real life, Jack O'Halloran was a man who had to find his own voice and decide his own fate, escaping a criminal legacy that could have defined his entire life. The silent character on screen is the complete opposite of the man who had to fight to write his own story. Today, at the age of 82, Jack O'Halloran is living a quiet life. His journey is proof that the past does not determine the future and that everyone has the ability to choose their own path, regardless of where they come from. Sarah Douglas as Ursa. In Superman, the character Ursa is the ruthless and cold Kryptonian warrior, one of the three main villains. With her angular face and sharp gaze, Sarah Douglas created a powerful and fearsome female villain. Her performance at the time, at the age of 26, stood out even alongside big names. After the success of Superman, Sarah Douglas, born on December 12, 1952, had to face the sexism and ageism of 1980s Hollywood, despite her talent and charisma. Her career gradually shifted to supporting roles and B-movies. She spoke out frankly about the injustices in the industry. However, she never gave up. She continued to work hard in various fields, from theater and television to voice acting, becoming a living legend among fans at science fiction conventions. What is most profound is the connection between her role and her life. In the film, Ursa is a strong woman, fighting in a male-dominated world. In real life, Sarah Douglas was also a strong woman, having to fight to survive and maintain her integrity in a male-dominated industry. The character's battle on screen reflected the artist's struggle in real life. Today, at the age of 73, Sarah Douglas is still working tirelessly in the entertainment industry. Her journey is a testament to perseverance and a love for her craft, an inspiring story of never letting others define your worth. Susanna York as Lara. In Superman, the character Lara is Superman's birth mother on the planet Krypton. Although she only appeared for a few minutes, Susanna York brought a Lara full of graceful beauty and noble presence. Her performance at the time, at the age of 39, perfectly portrayed the image of an intelligent and selfless mother. In real life, Susanna York, born in 1939, was one of the bright stars of British cinema in the 1960s, having been nominated for an Academy Award. She was a woman with a strong personality, unafraid to speak out about sexism in the film industry. She often chose gritty roles and preferred the stage over commercial films. Late in her life, when diagnosed with bone cancer, she refused chemotherapy, choosing to live her final days to the fullest and continue performing until she no longer could. What is most profound is the similarity between her role and her life. In the film, Lara is a noble woman who faces the destruction of her planet with extraordinary composure. In real life, Susanna York also faced her own death with incredible courage and dignity. The character's nobility reflected the artist's own spirit. However, that dignified journey had to come to an end. On January 15, 2011, Susanna York passed away at the age of 72. Her passing left a sense of loss for those who admired her great talent. Her legacy is not just her roles, but a story of courage in the face of life's greatest challenges.